What's up, guys? Alex Louis here again with Solidity tutorial. Today I want to show you what inheritance is in Solidity and how it functions and how it works. So inheritance is basically a concept. It's an object-oriented concept which states that if you have a child, well, I'm going to talk about classes, but you can replace the word class with contract. If you have a child class that inherits from a parent class, then the child class will inherit all its properties and behaviors from the parent class. For example, if we use that concept in real life, you as the son or daughter of your parents are inheriting their traits. So you in turn are have inherited from your mom or dad. And your mom and dad have inherited from your grandparents. Okay, so you will also, as a son or daughter, inherit some of their traits of your grandfather or grandmother. Okay, and when you're doing contract development in Solidity, you can take that concept and inherit from different parent contracts. So for example, if we see this right now here, I have contract X, and the first inheritance chain I'm building is contract A is X. So is the key word to say that A inherits from X. So anything in X will be inherited by A. And then I can say that D is A, which means that now I'm inheriting everything from A as well as anything from X. So if I had, so let me just actually take this contract out. If I had the following, contract C is A first, C will inherit anything from A, and I also will be able to inherit things from X because you're inheriting, again, parent and then grandparents. And then if this X is inherited from somebody else, then that would also be inherited. Now, Solidity provides multiple inheritance chains. It allows you to do multiple inheritance. What does that mean? It means that you can inherit from more than one contract. So for example, say that D is totally unrelated to these two contracts above. I can say that contract C is AD. Okay, and Solidity will let me inherit from A, which in turn inherits from X, and will also let me inherit from D, which perhaps it has some other properties and functions that I want to have access to. So Solidity allows you to do multiple inheritance, and if you have any programming experience, the only language that I'm aware that I've been dealt with that has multiple inheritance is C++. Now things can get really tricky with that because you can have a linearization issue with inheritance. For example, if I'm inheriting from A and I'm inheriting from D and I try to inherit from X, then that's not going to work because since I've already inherited from A, who in turn inherits from X, it doesn't make sense for it to allow me to inherit from X again and override X's functions because I'm already inheriting from A and I can touch A's functions and properties. Okay, so luckily for us, Solidity will give us a linearization error and it won't allow you to compile. Okay, it won't allow you to compile. So whenever you inherit from a contract, it means that you're allowed to override whatever functions and properties that they have available. Okay, let's take a look at another example where we can access the properties of our parent contracts. Okay, so by the magic of the internet, I was able to write this contract in about 1 second. So let's say we have three contracts. So we have contract P, contract C1, and C2. P has P var, C1 has C1 and C2 has C2 var. Now by default they are public. So now I'm gonna create another contract which will inherit from all three of these who are totally unrelated. So now I have a variable from this particular contract which is multi-inherit, and I also want to write a function which is going to return the value of my parent contract, which is a P. So I can return pvar. You see, pvar doesn't exist in multi-inherit, but because I inherit from P, I am able to access it from pvar, from P. Okay, and then same thing from C1. C1 is from C1 contract, and I can directly access that property and state variable from C1. And same thing for C2. I can directly access that variable from C2, and my var is my variable here in multi-inherit. Okay. Okay, so now if we want to compile this contract here and see how it runs, the first thing you want to do, I'm going to make this a little bigger so you can see. On the right hand pane, you're going to make sure that your environment is on JavaScript VM, and what you want to do also is you want to make sure this drop down is not at C1, because that's not the contract you want to deploy. You actually want to deploy multi-inherit. Okay, so now if you deploy multi-inherit, you click on create, and there's your contract. Now if I call get pvar, it's going to return a pvar string, literal, which is what my value is, and then C1 is going to be C1 var, and that's what my value is, and we have it accessible to us. Okay, so that's basically how inheritance works, and you can access, so if I had functions within P or C1 or C2, then I can access functions from C1 and C2 as long as I inherit from those contracts. Now the other thing, again, I'm going to give you for instance, if you have for a linearization error. So let's say that C1 inherits from P. As soon as I do that, I'm getting an error here now. And the reason that it gives you an error is what I told you in the last example was you are inheriting from C1 who inherits from P, so you can override everything in C1, okay, and do whatever you want to the functions and variables, and then you're also trying to inherit from P, and that's a contradiction because you've already done C1 who's inheriting from P, so it's going to throw you an error of linearization error, okay, and you want to stay away from that. So just know that if you inherit from one contract, make sure that if it does inherit from another, you're not inheriting from that same other contract that is already inherited from. And again, multi-inheritance can get pretty tricky. I don't expect you to write, at least myself, I wouldn't write any contracts that are going to try and bundle all these inheritance chains to this complexity. So I would stay away from them, but that's just something that you should realize. So the way that I could fix this is actually just remove P, and now I have access to, I still have access to pvar. Okay, notice how I still have access to pvar. So even though I'm not inheriting from P, I have access to pvar through what? I'll give you a minute to think about that. Where do you have access to pvar? That's right, C1. So C1 is inheriting from P. So not only do I have access to C1, I also have access to pvar through C1. Okay, so it pretty much is, it can get real nice if you understand it well, but try not to inherit too much, because then you can go crazy if you're inheriting from 7 different contracts. You don't want to do that. You may want to just segregate your contracts altogether, and then create instantiate the contract object from other contracts and do it that way, not just have full-on inheritance. Because then, if you have too much inheritance, you're gonna tight couple your code, and you don't want to do that either. You want to stay away from tight coupling, and you want to actually do loose coupling. Okay, so you actually want to program to the interface or the abstract contract. Okay, so that's it for today for my contract video, inheritance. So I hope you understand. If you have any questions, you can always email me at parttimemagic@gmail.com. I'm always available on the support tab as well. Got a couple people that are writing here. And if you want to contact me directly, you can email me at parttimemagic@gmail.com. Hope to see you in the next video. Stay tuned.